Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and possibly Saturday, we're going to be discussing different aspects of the Nectar of Devotion. So I thought Maharaj has very elaborately described the first 4 chapters of the Nectar of Devotion about the application of devotional service. So I thought we'd start at chapter 5. And I'll read through it and maybe make some comments, and if anybody comes or they SMS Mr. John with a few questions, then maybe we might be able to answer them. They may be able to SMS me maybe, but then I'll lose the page. Chapter 5, the purity of devotional service. So all of the previous instructions imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus: as long as one is materially inclined or desires emerging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. So just elaborate a little bit here, that unless, like what was unless what? One's got material inclinations. That material inclinations means attachment to material things, and what that ultimately means is that one wants to please his own sense gratification, separate from serving Krishna. That's the first condition. The second condition was being desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence. You know, it's sometimes Prabhupada just said one with the Lord, becoming one with God, right? So that, broadly speaking, in the West, there's a little bit more, we can sort of explain that away as being somebody who has no faith in God whatsoever, you know, so they think, I'll make the process by myself. We see people here, they come here all the time, and they want to do yoga so they can get better, so they can elevate their consciousness and then develop the within, themselves within. But they've got no aspect that God is in their heart. So anything that's not to do with Krishna is actually false, it's Maya. So that is the second condition. So if you want to sort of do something and you don't involve Krishna, which ultimately means you don't believe in God, then you're nowhere, you don't get anywhere. This is what Prabhupada is saying. So this is, if you really want to make any advancement in your material body, first of all, you have to understand that the Supreme Lord is sitting in your heart, and your relationship with the Lord is eternal, and that's what you're here for, to eternally develop your relationship with the Supreme Lord. And how we do that? Devotional service. Simple as that. Okay, so that was the opening statement. Keep going. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations, and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society or circumstance. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain, and it cannot be checked in any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities. So on this point, I had a few very nice, interesting conversations when we went to New Gokul this weekend. I was bunked up with this Iranian devotee, and he'd been in Australia for like about 3 years or something. Previously he was in Austria. And I said, how long have you been a devotee? He said, 15 years. I said, how did you become a devotee? He said, someone gave him a book in Iran, in Tehran. Someone gave him a Krishna conscious book in Tehran. I go, how is that possible? He said, well, it happened that these books are going out in Tehran. And from that, he read the book, and he always, was attracted to Krishna consciousness, even though he couldn't practice it. And then when he went outside, he saw the devotees, and he became a devotee. So that was one instance. And then there was another instance. There was an Indian devotee there, and he said, oh, do you know him? He's the regional secretary for Pakistan. I go, Pakistan? You have devotees in Pakistan? Because there is only one religion in Pakistan, as we know, and that religion is Islam. So if anybody wants to practice any other religion, then they could get punished by death. But having said that, apparently Ganga was telling me that there's the Children of God, there's a religious Christian institution. And one time he went there to Pakistan, and a devotee said, oh, come, there was a devotee there, said, come, I know a place where we can go where it's safe. And he went to the Children of God, and they looked after him, gave him some place. So there is, even in these places, and we know there are devotees in Pakistan, so this devotee's business is to disseminate Krishna consciousness how we can in Pakistan. So there's a couple of severe places. There we have like Bangladesh, was actually, that's a majority of Islamic country, 90% Islamic and 10% Hindus, but that translates into like 20 million Hindus, because 200 million people in Pakistan. And so Hinduism's very strong. Hinduism's strong, and so therefore Krishna consciousness is strong. We go and preach, and of course our roots are there in Bangladesh, because all the Goswamis came from there. Lord Chaitanya's father, Jagannath Mishra, come from there. Haridas Thakur was born there. So there's so much heritage there in Bangladesh, and you've got a border. They put a border there. Okay, this is this country, this is that country, and you can't come in, and this is one religion here. But actually, Krishna consciousness is beyond borders. Even if, like, you have Islam, then you have communism, like communist China, where any religion is forbidden, because they classify as too fanatical and straying from the straying from the philosophy of one nation for the people. So therefore they're very strict about not letting any religions in, but still we saw how many Chinese people come, and when they come, their heart just opens up to the Lord. You can see that even though they've been suppressed for many, many years, still as soon as they experience bhakti, something happens, that they become bhaktas, and bhakta's universal. So we can go from one country to the next, and when we meet devotees, we have this universal language of Hare Krishna, Jai, Govinda, Hari Bol, Prasadam. Let's engage in the Lord's service. Let's cook prasadam. Every house that we go to devotees is like a temple. We've been visiting a lot of devotees outside of COVID, just going there for maybe lunch or for some business. And every time you go into the house, there's the deities, there's the altar, everything's offered to the deities. We went in Port Macquarie, Susavani's got this beautiful house with really beautiful deities from Rajasthan. Vrindavan. Look like the Melbourne deities. You've been to Melbourne? Sort of the beautiful Radha Vallabha, about the same size, just there on the altar. That's the Lord of her life. And then we went to a farm, Glen Innes, Guru Shaki. He's got a beautiful altar there. He's worshiping Siddha Bakula branch. There's a pastime that is associated with Lord Chaitanya. So and these houses are very sattvic. They offer prasadam to the Lord. So all around the world we have this situation. So devotees are becoming strong in Krishna consciousness. And so we follow, this is following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. This is why he's written the Nectar of Devotion. So we can become strong and follow in his footsteps. So, stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. So, in the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste, they further claim that the practice and spreading of devotional service belong only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time, until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that the devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high-class Brahmana. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. So it's a bit akin to Vijita was saying that he once visited an Amish community in the United States, and they had their own community, and everybody harmonised within that community. And he said, well, this is a very harmonic community, how do I join? How do I join? Just to see what they say. They said, oh, you can't join, I'm afraid. You have to be born in here. Right? So it's very restrictive. So of course Lord Chaitanya did not want that to happen. So that was the sort of way the Brahmins look at it. Also that we're the higher class. In previous ages there was a distinction that the Brahmanas, even by their look, even still today you can see some Brahmanas that have got really fine features and they're very highly intelligent, and a lot of these people are very humble also. But they've taken on position of doctors or lawyers or whatever. They still have the Brahmins read, but they are working out there in the society. They still call themselves Brahmins, and then they think that, well, if I have my son, he's going to be a Brahmin too because he comes from me. So this is the sort of like different sort of degrees of pollution of this. So Lord Chaitanya opened it up to everybody. He just said even, anybody, all the different castes, and like Haridas Thakur was from Islamic background, and he was the greatest Namacharya. So we understand this, but at the same time we also have to understand that there is the guna and the karma that we do come from. It doesn't matter where we come from, we can take the Krishna consciousness, but depending on what our guna and our karma has been, if our karma has been that we've engaged in low-class activities like that associated with milechas, we may become devotees, but then we have to fight extra hard to remain strong, because sometimes that karma, that guna, our nature is still there with us, and if there's some difficulty or something like that, we sort of think, oh, well, I'll resort back to my nature because I know that's the relief that I'll get through intoxication or whatever. Certainly not meeting, mainly intoxication, illicit sex, then that'll give me some relief. That's what the mind tries to tell you, that this is how you're going to find it. So, if we've had a nice upbringing, very self-controlled upbringing through pious families, then it is easier. Bhagavad Gita explains that a devotee can take birth in a pious family and continue on his devotional service. So good karma is important, but if we apply ourselves strictly to Krishna consciousness and take the association of devotees, that is the most important thing. That devotees, wherever they are, they love to associate with each other, because we talk about Krishna. What is it? Satatam kirtayanto mam. No, that's sloka in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. So always chanting my glories, endeavouring with great enthusiasm, worshipping me with all the heart, that a devotee attains me. So this is how we come to that platform, through that association. So this is how we counteract all these different classifications, whether we whatever colour skin we have, whatever race we come from, whatever class that we're born in. If we are applying ourselves diligently in the process of devotional service, we're first-class men and women. So, and of course Srila Prabhupada has opened this up to the ladies. Why? Because actually ladies are just, in this age of Kali Yuga, they're just as intelligent, if not more intelligence. The ladies are gaining intelligence and the men are losing intelligence. This is what we see in the age of Kali Yuga. Every time you turn the radio on, we have the Minister for Health, the Minister for Transport, and the ladies start speaking. That was never the case 50 years ago. We have the ministers and prime ministers. And that is also due to the fact in this modern age we have education, and education is equal for all. And so therefore that's how it is. Previously Maharaj was saying that only the Brahmins could read, nobody else could read. So we have the different different shastras or whatever, but if you wanted something written or explained, the Brahmins the only one who was able to do it. It is on the basis, keep going, it is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendently, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned proposition of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. So-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it's not supported by Rupa Goswami or by the strength of various scriptures. Just another thing I found out over the weekend is I was reading about Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj, and we know that he found the sacred site of where Lord Chaitanya was born, and then his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he began building a temple there. And when he began to build a temple there, he met with so much resistance from the caste Brahmins and all the residents of Navadvip. How dare he do this? This is not the right place. He's not qualified to do such a thing. And there was so much criticism going on because he was accepting devotees from any walk of life. The brahmachari didn't ask, is your family a Brahmin? And then you can become a brahmachari devotee. He wasn't asking that. And he was making Western devotees. You see these men in, what do you call those hats? Safari hats and safari suits going to visit him. He had one very, very nice German devotee actually, who was, I don't know if he's still alive, and he was preaching in Germany, and he went back living in Nepal. 1932, his first German devotee. Right, there. So therefore, he was getting so much criticism. So, but the fact is, he said, it doesn't matter what they say, we just persist in Lord Chaitanya's movement, Lord Chaitanya will carry on. It will help us continue the movement. By the strength of the Lord's power, we're protected by Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami specifically mentions herein that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and become Krishna conscious. Why is that? Because Krishna is in his heart. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he especially quoted one passage from Padma Purana where the sage Vasishtha tells King Dilipa, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magh, which is December and January." So there is more evidence in the Skanda Purana, in the Kasa Kanda portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayurad Bhaj, the lower caste people who are considered less than the Sudras, are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful, they immediately surpass the ordinary brahmanas. So we have that too, that we have so many people that come here, our guests, and they stay in the village, and they've been around for a while, and they know nothing about Krishna consciousness or Vaishnava principles. The fact that they don't know that they should be washing, maybe they wash once a week, have a bath once a week or something, and they don't know about the cleanliness, eating with their right hands, eating prasadam. A lot of them have eaten meat until the day that they've come to the temple. These are the type of people. But then they become attracted to the chanting and dancing, and then you say to them, "Come out on Harinam," and then we put them in saris, maybe the ladies, some men, they sort of dhotis, maybe, put them in dhotis also, dress them up, and we go, "How does that feel?" And they go, "Oh, it feels so great." They feel good, right? And you look at them and they're like from Vaikuntha. You can't tell, they're just a transformation. Anytime you transform, put a dhoti, sara, they look like Prabhupada says here. They appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary brahmanas. The brahmanas there with their big fat bellies and, a gamsha and a brahman thread, just looking like that, It's all up here. Actually, the mind is in the heart. So, thus, Vaishnava automatically becomes a brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatana Goswami in his book, Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is the Vaishnava Guide. Therein, it is clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a brahmana, as much as the metal known as kamsa, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. A bona fide spiritual master, under the guidance of the authorities, can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult, so naturally he may come to the topmost position of a brahmana. So that's fascinating, isn't it? Turning bell metal into gold. They said there's a sort of, what's that called? Alchemy, yeah. They said Nostradamus knew the art, the alchemist. Anyway, so we're alchemists, that we can turn. This is Prabhupada's miracle. Often they'd ask Srila Prabhupada, "What miracles can you perform?" He said, "This is my miracle, that I can turn these devotees, these people, who we just described, into first-class Vaishnavas. That is my miracle." Indeed. Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by acceptance of such initiation his business is then finished. It's a bit like Christianity, where they say, "Have you been saved by Jesus? Do you accept Jesus in the heart?" "Yes." "Then you're saved." End of story, right? You've been saved. But that's the beginning of the story. This is the beginning of your spiritual life. So it says here that one still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is a part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna, and that it is his duty as a part and parcel to give service to the whole, all Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then we again fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of a high-class brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow regular principles very religiously. So as we say in Australia, don't drop the bundle. You know, it's all right to, adopt the ways of a devotee, talk like a devotee, associate with the devotees, but at the same time don't drop the bundle. That means, what does that mean? It means that performing devotional service is a part of this. So like you always remember that there's 16 rounds that you have to chant. So that's a part of your life. It's a part of your process, just like we eat and we sleep and we do so many other things. So we chant 16 rounds, we offer our prasadam to the Lord, and then that's just personal, that's us. What can we do beyond that that actually will please the Lord? Because actually the Lord is pleased by the service that devotees perform. It doesn't have to be elaborate service. The Lord says, Patram Pasvam Palam Toyam Yomi Bhakti Prayachiti, that one offers me fruits and flower, leaf or even water, I'm happy to accept it. But what is the key ingredient? Love and devotion. So this we have to develop, because here we have this situation. Okay, we have to perform devotional service, we have to chant our rounds, and we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do that. We just have to be careful of this. We have to, we are actually discharging these duties. Why are we discharging these duties? To enhance our love of Krishna. So whatever we do, we discharge these duties with the purpose of making Krishna happy. Right? That's it, because if we make Krishna happy, then Krishna becomes satisfied and he reciprocates. It's sort of like a hook. If you reciprocate with Krishna, then he becomes aware of you and becomes attracted to your service. It's like a hook. He hooks you in and you can't get away. And then, of course, then when you're hooked in, then service becomes totally pleasurable, because you actually think of Krishna while you're doing it. Oh, I'm doing this for Krishna. So many different things what we do during the day. We think I'm doing this to please Krishna or Krishna's devotees, because Krishna is very, very pleased when someone serves the devotees, serves his devotees. So that's how you actually get through to Krishna, so that you serve his devotees. And who's the ultimate devotee of Krishna? Srimati Radharani. Right? So, of course, direct service to Srimati Radharani is you have to wait in the queue many millions of times over. But then it says, Dasana Das, Lord Chaitanya says that, Dasana, 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 Dasana. That we are the servant of the servant, so many times removed, but we are connected to Radharani. So, this is why when we become initiated into the process of Krishna consciousness, that we hear the mantra from the bona fide source, and we have the philosophy there, and we understand the philosophy from Rupa Goswami and all the Goswamis, and from Lord Chaitanya, then we're connected. And so in this parampara system, so whatever we do through the system, we are connected. And so that joy of Krishna consciousness is inherent also. It's not like it's mechanical. Maybe in the beginning, we have that attraction, and then sometimes because the modes are there, Adi-Davik, Adi-Bodhik, Adi-Atmik, that it becomes a duty, it becomes a chore. I have to wake up at 4:45 and wake the deities and do the Adi, it's freezing. But I have to do this because, it's my duty. But it's more than that. It's actually the pleasure of that duty is that you actually got the chance to wake the Lord and have that intimate association with the Lord. Everything is like that. It's all absolute. The paraphernalia in the deity room is absolute. Everything in this garden, if it's used in this grounds, if it's used in Krishna service, it's absolute. And if we do it in association with devotees and we're serving not only ourselves but Krishna, spiritual master and devotees, we get this joy that comes naturally, because by nature we're joyful because we're spiritual. But when we become covered over, we become miserable, we become fearful. What is going to happen to us? Who's us? We have misidentified. We're thinking that us is my body. I just heard a comment today, as you get older, it becomes harder and harder. And there's one of our senior godbrothers, he's just turned 81. He said, when you're 81, you sort of get 5 different parts of your body every day that start aching. So that's a real test there. It's a sort of the test of time. So then, if we are fully trained, we understand, well, this body's falling apart. As you said that, just see this body just falls apart and you have to deal with it. And finally, we have to shed this body. But where do we go? This is a little bit further down the chapter here. I'm not going to get through all this chapter, but so many other interesting points here. Srila Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of a fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with the prayaschita, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. I was talking about that point the other day too. It's so crazy that in the old days that, if the Islamics, the Muslims would come up to a Hindu and they sprinkle water on them. They say, oh, now you're a Muslim, you can't go back to being a Hindu. And they'd go to the Brahmin and they said, oh, this Muslim sprinkled water on my head. Now he said, I'm a converted Muslim, how do I counteract it? And the Brahmin would say, well, in the Skanda Purana it says that you have to drink hot liquid, or fast for 100 days or something. I thought, oh well, I'll stay Muslim. But if someone sprinkles water on your head and says you're a Muslim, then someone else can sprinkle Ganges water on your head and that's counteracted it. It's simple as that. But because they were so much stuck in their rules and regulations, blindly following them, they didn't understand the whole purport of what the rules and regs were. There's a whole lot of people that actually became Muslims out of Hindus, and this is the stupidity of it all. So now we have so many people who have lost their sort of beautiful Vedic culture in India and have become Islamic or Christians. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. So there we go. If someone falls down from principal devotional service, do not take the performance of reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations of discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This mystery of the Vaishnava devotional cult, that the Lord is very, very merciful, that if we just apply ourselves, do our best, and keep applying self, then we have the sincerity within our heart. Gradually, that sincerity will help us empty out all that garbage that is there within our heart and purify the heart with practice of devotional service. That has to be done through the association of devotees and following the instructions of the spiritual master, continuing. Practically, there are three processes for elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. These processes are called karma, jnana, and bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma. Speculative processes are in the field of jnana. And one who is taken to bhakti, devotional service of the Lord, need have nothing to do with karma or jnana. It's already been explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Bhakti should have no tinge of philosophical speculation or ritualistic performances. I'll just keep talking if anybody wants to say something. So, Manu Maharaj, as always, nearly every day he talks about that in his classes, how bhakti is just so pure that it's so beyond all these different processes. That first of all, that we have karma, the karma kanda section of Vedas, that's meant for purification. Of course, the result of pure karma, good karma, is that you get the heavenly planets, which is a very, very temporary situation. They were discussing that if you do make it to the heavenly planets, you are hardly likely to get the position of a demigod, that you're just going to be performing some sort of act of sacrifice there and live your time out as a nice subject in heavenly planets until your karma runs out and you have to come back here. Ultimately, the full satisfaction of living in joy and spiritual bliss is not attainable. That's what it's saying. You can't get there. So jnana, philosophical speculation. So that's the jnanis, their ultimate goal. What's their ultimate goal? Liberation. So what is the truth? And often jnana ascertains that actually the truth is false, it's not real, that nothing is real, that this is all an illusion. Why? Because it's temporary, it all goes away, therefore it's illusory. It's like I'm here, 10 years ago I was somewhere else, and wherever else I was may not even exist anymore. You know, it's just an illusion that's in my mind. So we're just living this illusion from one second to another. We're thinking that this is my friend, this is my enemy, and so many things. But ultimately, this is all not real. So the real thing is Brahman. That's the eternal thing, that white, shining, spiritual effulgence, which is us. And of course, the Gyanis made that fatal mistake that he identifies himself with that Atma as being the supreme eternal abode. And he has no knowledge of the Lord sitting in the heart next to the Atma, and the Lord is called Paramatma. He's the supreme Atma. So that's Jnani. So bhakti should have no tinge of philosophical speculation or ritualistic performances. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami gives evidence from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take to the shelter of a process of fruitive activity or philosophical speculation. We hope. Fruitive activity, that you're up there and sometimes you're thinking, well, here I am, I'm so poor, I just wish that maybe I could have something there where I could set myself up, maybe make a business, make a lot of money for Krishna, or have a temple, or have a nice comfortable situation for myself. even a car that works, and so many things start going through our mind. So that is sort of like that sort of is always going through. So this way, by discharging devotional service, we get all that out of the way, and we just leave the rest up to Krishna, because we find a lot of times that whatever we desire, if we desire through devotional service, Krishna will provide. If we desire it outside devotional service for ourselves, Krishna will provide also, but then we won't have devotional service. We've seen this so many times, why is Krishna stopping me from being a lawyer? There's a famous friend of ours that was here for so many years, and he had 22 days to go in working for a lawyer, and then he was able to qualify for being a lawyer. And every time he got a job, it just kept getting harder and harder. Well, I think he had started with a couple of months to go, so he got a job for this lawyer for 2 days a week. So gradually he was whittling his days down. Then the lawyer said, I can only have 1 day a week. And it can only be 1 day every 2 weeks, right? So the closer you get, the further, the harder it was. So then he went and got a job with somebody else. And then it was like all gung-ho, but then he got himself into a bit of trouble because he filled in a paper wrong or something, went to court, and they threw it out of court because he didn't fill in the papers properly. So they sacked him, so he had this much to go. He had like 3 or 4 days to go, and he found himself without a job, and he's going, why is Krishna doing this to me? I really want to serve Krishna by doing this, but he's stopping me. So in the end, Krishna fulfilled his desires, became a lawyer, he got a job, and then he went away, and we haven't heard from him since, actually. That Krishna said, well, if you want to be a lawyer, okay, take it, here, be one, right? But then you become a lawyer, but you don't get devotional service. So you can desire all these things, but at the same time you understand that actually I'm not the doer, I'm trying my best, and whatever the result is, it's up to Krishna. If he wants me to become like this, then I'll become like that. And if I don't, it's actually Krishna's mercy also. Maybe it's not for my best interest in devotional service. We keep forgetting this because sometimes we see so many wealthy people. Everybody knows someone who's wealthy, my friend, he's got a yacht, he goes sailing with me, or I go to his double-story house, his mansion, and he's so rich, and sometimes we just sort of, a little bit of envy comes in that, that he's sort of got it so comfortable he can use whatever he likes, do it. And then if I was in that situation, I could do it in Krishna consciousness. Maybe yes, maybe no. If you're in that situation, maybe again you're on the other side of Krishna consciousness. You've got that situation, but then Krishna becomes very remote. So therefore, sometimes we just, we do it tough, but actually this is Krishna's desire also, that if we're doing it tough, then we are thinking of Krishna. Because as we know, this body is only temporary. This sort of manifestation just keeps going and going again. And we don't really want to be caught up in it. Because if you get caught up in this material situation, you also become very fearful. The other things happen. You may be rich. You may have so much going on for yourself. But then the more material acquisitions you have, the fear factor begins to increase. Just like in Bhagavad Gita it says that there's the apavarga, apavana. So there's 5 syllables. Means you work very hard straight into where you want to be, right? And you're working so hard. And then the fear factor, you work so hard that there's a sort of the foaming at the mouth. Sometimes people, like they're working day and night, foaming at the mouth, trying to get where they want to go. And then there's a fear factor, I'm not going to get to where I want to go. Even though I'm trying so hard, this material energy, because there's always resistance from the material energy, it's never a straight line. So you start to become very, very afraid that you're not going to achieve what you're going to achieve, and then ultimately there's death that takes everything away from you, apavarga. So, it's a very tiring process. So, as you sort of develop more and more attachments, that fear factor begins to sort of sink in. It's just concomitant. You get frustrated, you start to fear that you have enemies, people will take your wealth from you. So, all this is going on. And then they look at the devotee and see the sort of peacefulness that is there within the devotee. I think I've been with Ganga for too long because he keeps telling me about his rich brothers. You know, he's got one brother who sort of owns all these radio stations in Italy, and he's got so much going on. And then Ganga goes to see him. You've come here, you know, what you want to sort of, what do you want me to provide shelter for you? Every time you come, I have to pay for something. He said, okay, I won't come, you know. So it's sort of like he's fearful that people are going to use him like that. And his other brothers also, but they're vegetarians, they're nice. And his other brother, he actually loves him because actually he says, you're so happy, you have nothing. These guys are so rich. He said, but you're so happy, it's nice being around you because you're happy. You don't really, you know, desire anything, you're just happy to be where you are. So this is the nature of a devotee, that the soul begins to shine through, because this is what we're doing. We're focusing on Krishna within the heart, and the rest happens naturally. People see this, they see this natural happiness. This is bhakti. So sometimes you just have to let bhakti take its course. So this is why, you know, we emphasize these people, if you're going away, you come and go away, don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, chant the Maha Mantra. We've got to have faith that if we tell them to chant the Maha Mantra sincerely within their hearts, and we're sincere within our hearts, then the seed of bhakti will grow. You don't have to worry. You know, so this is the potency of the holy name. Sometimes it says, one of the offences is to minimise the chanting of the holy name. So sometimes we just don't understand the potency of the holy name. So as I said, Lord Chaitanya said, Prativite Chaitato, not Harigram, that we go out, we chant the holy name, and we give it to everybody, and we have the faith that that name will reverberate in their hearts and actually change the whole, change the nature of the person from material to spiritual, bell metal into gold, it says here. This statement is supported in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 5th chapter, verse 17, wherein Sri Narada Muni advises Vyasadeva thus: even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty, but immediately takes the direction of the lotus feet of Hare Krishna, there will be no fault on his part, and in all circumstances his position is secure. Even if by some bad association he falls down while executing devotional service, or if he doesn't finish the complete course of devotional service and dies untimely, he's still not at a loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in Varna or an ashram, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very frantically in activities for sense gratification without knowing that this process will never help them get out of material contamination, are rewarded only with repeated births and deaths. There's this famous picture that I saw the other month on the internet where there's a sort of the gates of death, you know, and you have to go through the gate to get to the other side. And all the materialists are trying to take suitcase and suitcase of gold and wealth and coins and everything. And there's the agents, the Yamaraj there saying, leave that there, you can't take that through the gate. You know, so there's this whole pile of booty and wealth and everything there, and the person has to go through completely stripped bare and naked. So that is the situation. So with the devotee, there is no material attachments, it's easy to go through that gate. Whereas if you are attached, then the sort of the grief, the attachment, the death, my death is coming, what's going to happen to me? And you try to cling on to something, and if you've just been clinging on to your wealth, it's just like trying to cling on to a branch in a cliff. You see that in the movies, right? That someone's just about to go off a cliff or jump off a building, and he's hanging onto a flagpole, and he's hanging on, and gradually, one by one, the bolts start coming off the flagpole, and he's trying to hang on, and bang, down he goes because the flagpole comes loose, or the branch in the cliff comes loose. So this is material wealth that you still fall off the cliff. No material wealth can save you. It's only if you use your material wealth in engagement in Krishna's service. It's the only way in which you can inherit your true destination, which is back to complete association, blissful association with Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated by Rishabhdev to his sons, persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudev. There will be no question of getting out from these stringent laws of material nature. As such, any person who is very seriously engaged in his occupational duties in varnas and ashrams does not develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, should be understood as simply spoiling his human form of life. This is confirmed also in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instructions, giving up all occupational duties to be considered first-class man." In this statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is understood that people who are generally attracted to philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, political and social welfare activities may be considered nice men only in the calculation of the material world. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other authentic Vedic scriptures, we learn further that if a person simply acts in Krishna consciousness and discharges devotional service, he is considered to be far, far better situated than all those persons engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic and social welfare activities. So this is a dilemma, isn't it? That sometimes our relatives may say to us, happens a lot, doesn't it? There's a sort of crisis. Why are you in Krishna consciousness? If you really want to help people, why don't you become a member of UNESCO or go abroad and help the starving masses in Africa, or just start doing charitable works here, helping the poor and the homeless. There is so much you could be doing here. But you're sitting here and you're chanting, you're not actually doing it. So that is altruistic, philanthropic work that they want us to do. So ultimately the best way to understand that is those people like St. Vinny's, they go and they give the homeless some, soup kitchen. But what they serve hearty beef soup. So in their generosity to please the poor spirit soul and make him a little bit more happy, they're actually binding him even further by giving him the dead animals and all the karma that is associated with it. So first of all, you have to know what is the true beneficial thing for humanity. And of course, the true beneficial thing is to understand that you're beyond this body, that this situation that you're in, even though it may feel sorry for you to sort of hear some really, terrible situations, but somehow or other it's come about and you're suffering that situation, there is some reason there. And the only way you can actually get beyond that is to attain that stage of enlightenment where you know not this body. There is so much suffering going on, but it all depends how you suffer it. I just finished with this story, like Niranjana Swami once told this story. It's a real beautiful story about the Brahmananda asked to see him when he was passing away, Brahmananda Swami. And he was spending a couple of days there, probably in Bombay, I'm not quite sure. And every day you go and see Brahmananda. And Brahmananda was very, very ill, just, had cancer, leukemia or something, very sick and great pain. And one day, you do kirtan for him. One day, Narendra Maharaj had this headache. He had this really, really, really bad headache. He said, I can't possibly go and see him. My head is just splitting. And then after a little while, he sent the message on, I can't come to have a headache. After a while, he thought about it. He said, I have this headache, but Brahmananda, he's got this disease. He's just about to leave his body, and he's racked with pain, and all I've got is just this headache. He said, I'm being so selfish. Then he said, I've got to go and see him. So he went anyway, and he saw him, and Brahmananda saw him. He said, oh, but you have a headache, you've come to see me. He said, come here. And he asked someone for some massage oil, and he started massaging his head for about an hour or so, just to sort of make him feel better. So how nice was that? So this is a situation here that we may have some sort of, emotion towards the material body. But when we're enlightened, it doesn't matter what condition we're in, we just see it's a situation that this body is temporary. There's so many devotees that actually in bliss because they see everything as Krishna's arrangement, then Krishna gives them mercy also when we do suffer like that. So I'll finish here. I'll just there's still a little bit to go, so I'll get Ganga to finish that tomorrow maybe. And that's chapter 5, but I really the essence, a lot of things start chapter 5, chapter 6. We'll go on from there and see how we go this week. Okay? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Right, April.